Imagine being in love and trusting someone, but end up being tortured and betrayed. How would you react if your loved one has a strong connection with the paranormal world? In tonight's story, we will learn that maybe it's better to ignore a text that is too good to be true. Let's dive into the next story, about a man who nearly escaped death after trusting the wrong people on Reddit. Listen closely and never make the same mistake he made. Welcome to your next Chills Before Sleep. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to enable all notifications. Hello everyone, I'm Kevin, and I'm a 32-year-old man living in Reno. My roommate had just moved out of our apartment, so I was living alone there at the time. I spend a lot of time online. In fact, I frequent a website called Reddit a lot. You might know it, it's getting more and more popular. It was a typical cold winter evening when I got off. I was supposed to go on a date that night, but she canceled on me at the last minute. It was pretty disappointing, but I got on with my day regardless. At the end of the day, I ended up scrolling through Reddit. Eventually, I ended up on a certain dating subreddit. It was a subreddit that discusses and debates dating and its different aspects. While on the subreddit, I commented on one of the posts. It was something about dating standards, and I had described on that post that I had recently been stood up by a woman as well. I didn't really think much about it. I was just about to close the website when I got a notification. Someone had messaged me. The profile showed a photo of a beautiful woman. That was a bit surprising because people don't usually have their real-life photos as their profile photo. She had texted me about the comment I left. "Hey Kevin," said the text. "I'm so sorry you got stood up. Want to talk about it?" I had nothing else to do that night, so I decided I will just talk to the woman for a few minutes. She asked me a few things about myself, but I made sure not to give out any personal details. I had only planned to stay up talking with her for just a little bit, but I had no idea when just a bit turned into the whole night. Then this night turned into weeks. She sent me pictures of herself. She showed me her life. Her name was Vanessa. She was a beautiful woman with dyed red hair and emerald green eyes. I loved talking to her, and it felt like she was someone who really understood me. We decided to meet up a few weeks after. I was really nervous but equally excited. She was a very interesting person as well, and I feel like we got along really well. The day came and we decided to meet up at a cafe. I was so scared, and I must have spent around 15 minutes just psyching myself up to go inside the cafe. But when I saw her, I was completely blown away. She was absolutely gorgeous. She had the most beautiful smile I have ever seen on a woman. I felt instantly attracted to her, and I don't know who wouldn't be. She seemed to have an aura of charm around her. I don't know how she had been single when we met, because any guy would love to be with a girl like her. I sat down at the table and honestly stumbled through the first few sentences. I felt so awkward and nervous at the moment, but then she spoke, and it was like a new confidence had been instilled into me. It was hard for me to not talk to her like intended. The first date led to many more. I loved being with her. She made me feel alive again. But I noticed something. After every date, I would end up feeling more and more tired. I went to several doctors regarding it, but they could never really find anything wrong with me. They just tell me to sleep more, take less stress, but nothing helped. All that helped was her. When she was around, I felt more energized. I felt happier. I felt like I could do anything. But as I spent more time with Vanessa, the time without her started feeling more physically taxing and tiring. After going on dates with her for about 6 weeks, she asked me to go on a week-long trip with her. But she asked me not to tell people. In fact, we had kept our relationship secret from all our peers and family. I found this a bit odd, but accepted it. I really wanted to spend any time with her that I could. I thought I was falling in love with her, and spending time with her made me feel like I was on top of the world. We boarded a plane for Hawaii together. We held hands and she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder as I watched the sun go down. This seemed like a beautiful moment. I wish I could spend my whole life like this. I was so happy. It makes me sad to think about what happened next. When we landed in Hawaii, we took a cab to our hotel. We were kissing the whole ride and snuggling. I felt like we were newlyweds on a honeymoon. We reached the hotel and checked into our room. We then decided to unwind by going to the beach and getting drunk out of our minds. I felt so happy and energized with her. Even being around her really upped my spirits. Every time I stayed away from her, I felt really out of energy. I thought it was weird, but just let it go at the time. I adored her, and I loved her. I loved her with all my heart. We fell asleep and I had horrible dreams that night. I dreamt that night of being eaten alive by wolves and bleeding out on the forest floor. I woke up the next morning shivering. I was in horrible pain. It felt like I would pass out. That's when I heard her voice. She touched my shoulder and everything felt better. Suddenly, my pain was completely gone. I was relieved and confused at the same time. I remembered waking up for a second and saw Vanessa standing next to the bed, creepily staring at me. But I was so tired that I fell back asleep right away. I didn't talk about it the next morning, and we went hiking for the whole day. At night, we returned back to our hotel room and made love while we showered together. I fell asleep holding her again, but the dreams I had were absolutely horrible. I dreamt again of bleeding out, and that some women dressed in black cloaks were drinking my blood. I woke up feeling horrible. I was feeling groggy and nauseous when I woke up. I had a headache, and I really felt like I was going to pass out. But then Vanessa woke up and touched me, and it felt like all my woes just disappeared. I loved it, and I loved her. However, I had also decided to see a doctor. Every night I would see the most awful nightmares, and every day I would wake up to feel horrible. That is, until Vanessa touched me. The last day of the trip, we spent the whole day surfing on the Hawaiian beaches. We came back to our room and drank a lot. In a few hours, I passed out drunk. Around 4 a.m. in the morning, I woke up to find Vanessa standing over me, staring at me. She looked more rough than she usually does. Her hair looked messy, and her appearance looked somewhat haggard. She appeared about 30 years older than she actually was. And the scariest part was that she was holding a large butcher knife in her hand. I was startled by her appearance. I sat up in bed and looked at her. She had the most menacing grin on her face. "Vanessa?" I asked. I instantly felt ill and nauseous. I was so weak I could hardly move. She just looked at me with a creepy grin and didn't answer. "Vanessa? What's going on?" I asked again. Her grin vanished, and suddenly she looked even more scary, almost like she was possessed. She tilted her head, looked deep into my eyes, and said,
"You give me power. You give me beauty. I need your life force forever."
I quickly realized why I felt so horrible the last few days. I couldn't believe this was happening. This was not the Vanessa I thought she was. This is a demon-looking creature who lives off my energy. She suddenly let out a loud scream as she tried to plunge the knife into my chest. I was absolutely exhausted, but I somehow rolled over and saved myself. She was astonished at this. Of course, this was not supposed to be happening. I mustered up all of my strength and stood up as she tried lunging at me again. There was no way that I would be able to escape through the door. I had to do something quick. I had no idea how I was going to save myself. Then suddenly a thought crept into my head. Our room was on the first floor. Falling from this height wouldn't be lethal. At this time, Vanessa was running towards me with the knife, and I panicked. I managed to leap out the window. What happened next is a blur. But when I woke up, I was in a hospital bed with my sister by my side. She had to travel to Hawaii because I was injured severely, and they thought my injuries were intentionally self-inflicted. My sister was very upset with me and she was crying a lot. I tried telling her what had happened, but I saw on her face that she did not believe me. In fact, no one did. Any trace of Vanessa ever having existed vanished. All the pictures were gone, and all the hotel staff said that I had stayed alone in the hotel. She was just gone. This concerned the doctors even more because they were worried that I was mentally ill and had made up Vanessa. It's been a month since the whole incident, and I'm back home again. I'm tired of everything that had happened. All the questions, everything. I even have to go to a therapist now every week. Every day I have a nightmare where my skin is shedding off of my body and my blood is being drunk by cloaked figures. I am convinced now that Vanessa was not actually a human. She seemed to be a demon who gained her youth by parasitically binding herself to men. If you ever get a message from a beautiful girl online who seems too good to be true, think twice before you respond.
Thank you for watching this video. Have you experienced a similar situation or another scary experience? Don't hesitate to submit your story by email or in the comments section down below. Ready for your next chills before sleep? Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think and don't forget to enable all notifications. Be the first ones to get the chills.